You play an assassination rogue and you are here, so clearly the top of the meters is not enough. You can always do more. And with 5 new bosses, no trash, and new items, that's what you're gonna do with a little help from myself. You defeated Algalon and Yogg-Saron and the rest of those guys in Ulduar, and now it's finally time to go to the Trial of the Grand Crusader, also known as TOGC, and do whatever you're supposed to do there. Anyway, new gear. Previously I'd done the math as upgrades from the previous tier with a comparison to how those items stack up in full bis, but this time I'm only going to do it as downgrades from your full tier 9 bis. Quite frankly, there aren't enough item upgrades in TOGC to make that information worth anything, since the item level of Ulduar was boosted in Classic. Ulduar is still relevant, which I suppose was the dev's design decision, so mission accomplished, I guess. Not going to bore you with too many of the details, but I used Simonize's great rogue sheet with 3-minute encounters, and all comparisons are done Alliance side, but item differences as Horde should be almost exactly the same. Okay, let's get started with the helm slot. The item level 258 tier helm is your final bis for this phase. You might say, but there are 2 tier helms on this list. What gives? Well, there's actually 3 tier helms in total, all with similar names, and 2 have the same name except one is heroic and one is not. Also, all the items in this raid have slightly different names for Alliance and Horde. Brilliant design decision, obviously. So, here it goes. The item level 258 tier pieces, including this helm, are redeemed from a token, of which you can get multiple, in the tribute chest at the end of the raid when you clear it on heroic and 25-man. These pieces will be highly coveted and not easy to come by. The item level 245 tier pieces are redeemed with emblems and 1 Trophy of the Crusade, an item that drops off of every 25-man boss and from the tribute chest at the end of 10-man. The unlisted item level 232 pieces are garbage tier and are bought with only badges. Trophies will not be hard to come by except for maybe at the very beginning of the phase, so don't buy the crap tier pieces, please. In this DPS comparison, it might look like upgrading your tier helm immediately is a massive gain, but this will often not be true. The tier 8 2-piece bonus is worth more than the tier 9 4-piece, which really isn't that good. When you're upgrading your gear in tier 9, I would highly suggest leaving 2 tier 8 pieces as last, likely 2 of either the helm, gloves, or shoulders. The Hood of Lethal Intent, bought with emblems, is not very good here, but funny enough, the Onyxia helm, remember her, is not that bad. Realistically though, you're just eventually looking to slot in a tier piece here. You have 1 singular upgrade for neck pieces. Charge of the Demon Lord drops from Lord Jaraxxus on 25 heroic. This is a very good item for assassination rogues, but honestly Pendulum of Infinity is only about 40 DPS behind. Its power level is seriously high for a previous tier item, and still worth killing General Vezix for. If you have the Vezix neck, none of the other necks besides Heroic Charge of the Demon Lord are relevant. If you don't, then the Collar of Ceaseless Torment from 10 heroic is a pretty good upgrade option. Shoulders will not be an off piece for the tier as there are no other 258 options, and the 1-2-4-5 option is a little behind. The top 2 options are again the tier pieces. It is notable that the Spalders of the Snow Bandit that drop from Anubarak and 10 heroic are very so slightly better than the Ulduar Bis Shoulder Pads of the Intruder in a full setup despite being 7 item level lower. It's something you should pick up if nobody else wants them, or it would make a great raid entry goal if you never got the Ulduar Bis ones from Iron Council, which can happen if you have terrible luck, like me. Very few people will be full Ulduar Bis going into phase 3. Also, I've killed that boss 18 times and it hasn't dropped once. I'm not salty or anything. Cloaks are going to be everybody's most in-demand slot. The best overall is a 272 cloak, one of a few, that only drops from the tribute chest in 25 heroic if your raid hasn't wiped a single time. Not everybody in your raid will get one of these. Fortunately, there are 2 other good cloaks in TOGC that are upgrades from your Ulduar bits. The Drape of the Untamed Predator from Beast of Northrend in 25 heroic is slightly better than the 50 out of 50 attempt cloak from 10-man due to having haste instead of armor pen. In the chest slot, the heroic tier piece is bis yet again, but this time there's a little more to it. The Cuirass of Calamitous Fate off Jaraxxus is actually a solid upgrade from Embrace of the Gladiator. This can make a decent upgrade from Embrace on raid entry, but eventually you will want to make this part of the tier set. Since the 245 tier is technically slightly worse than Embrace, this slot is probably your number 1 choice for heroic tier. If you can get a token, then this is probably where I'd spend it. You have 1 singular upgrade when it comes to bracers, and it's a whole 16 DPS upgrade. Huge. The Solar Bindings from Algalon and 25-man are obviously still worth having. If you haven't managed to kill Algalon or pick those up, then the Bracers of Swift Death are BOE and made through a new crafting recipe from Leatherworking. To get them crafted, you'll need to get 4 Crusader Orbs, which are the new tier crafting material like Frozen and Runed Orbs from the previous phases. The glove slot is very similar to what I said earlier about the helms. The top 2 options here are the 258 and 245 tier pieces, but you'll want to maintain your tier 8 2-piece bonus for as long as you can, making this more likely to be one of the later slots to be upgraded. Just for demonstration, the gloves at Amleth Dark for Algalon 10 are on here as well, and while they're overall better than the tier 8 gloves, the set bonus make them overall this in phase 2. The Silver Assassin or Sunreaver gloves are a pretty good option if you're not running with any set bonuses yet, or trying to bring an alt rogue up to par or something. Belts are about as remarkable as the braces were, only one real upgrade. Belt of the Merciless Killer drops from Twin Valks on 25 heroic. Even then, it's only about 32 DPS better than the Soul Devouring Cinch, which is only item level 239, which really shows the strength of that Yogg 10 belt more than anything. If you haven't had any luck getting the new belt or the Soul Devouring Cinch from 10-man Ulduar, then there's a new vendor in Dalaran that sells the Ulduar 10-man hard mode gear for a new currency. You'll have to run some dungeons on the new difficulty, but you can guarantee yourself the item with a bit of a time investment. Okay, so we finally made it to the off piece. We're at the leg slot, and this is what is going to be our non-tier piece. The tier legs are pretty poorly optimized and perform more than 100 DPS worse than those leggings of the Broken Beast, which, even better, drop from the very first boss in 25 heroic. The item level 245 tier is particularly bad, well behind the leggings of Cunning Deception, which were phase 2 best. Using a 258 tier token here is probably a waste. I would run with this slot as the off piece for the entire tier. Stick with the Yogg 25 hard mode legs until you can grab the Broken Beast ones. There are 2 very solid upgrades for boots in phase 3. Treads of the Ice Walker from Faction Champs 25 heroic are overall best, but really close behind, only 17 DPS, are the Acid Mob boots from 10 heroic. This will be one of the very few worthwhile upgrades in 10-man if you are well geared from Ulduar. Phase 2 Bis were the eye level 232 footpads of silence, so it makes sense that these will be easily upgradable. The normal boots from 25-man are also technically an upgrade, but I suspect that very few people will be doing much of phase 3 and normal. Obviously you have 2 ring slots, but only one is listed here. Typically I'd make a chart of combinations for you, but what's different this time is that Brand Signet Ring, a reward from the reply code alpha item from Algalon 25, is still Bis. Ulduar hard modes are still worth running, so this item should be a priority for you. As for the other ring slot, previously Band of Lights would go there, but that is now upgradable in TOGC. The big one here is the Ring of Callous Aggression that also drops off of Faction Champs and is a pretty sizable upgrade. There's actually a minor upgrade from 10 heroic. It's the Planestalker Signet from Lord Jaraxxus, which ends up being about 15 DPS better than the Band of Light. What is true for rings is also true for trinkets. One of the 2 best trinkets is an Ulduar item, and that's Comet's Trail from Algalon 25. Definitely a hot item, and pretty understandable if you haven't already required it. The other previously best trinket, Dark Matter, can be upgraded this tier to the also ridiculously high in demand Death's Verdict. Every physical DPS is going to want this. Your competition for it will be nuts. Dark Matter will now be acquirable by purchases with the new Essus currency, so the Dark Matter Comet's Trail combo still holds up pretty well until you get your hand on a Death's Verdict. If you're not able to get Comet's Trail, there is a new trinket called Victor's Call, also called Vengeance the Forsaken, in 10-man. It is not particularly great, but if you can use all the expertise on it, it could be worse. Unlisted here is the Mark of Supremacy trinket. It has passive hit rating and an attack power on use effect. It is technically behind Victor's Call by a few DPS in a full Bis setup, but is practically even with it otherwise. There felt like there were a million options for ranged weapons, but as far as I can tell, these are your top options. The best option is a gun from the Tribute Chest in 25. It only requires you finish a raid with at least 25 attempts, which shouldn't be very hard to do. There are also some other minor upgrades for Jaraxxus in 25 and a new Barak in 10. The new Throne weapon from the Emblem of Triumph vendor is not particularly good. Okay, weapons. Okay, so if you have 2 Blade Twisters from Ulduar, then your only upgrade is going to be the Steel or Stygian Bladebreaker. Your Abyss this phase will be 2 of those. If you don't have 2, then there is another item level 258 Slow Dagger, aka 1.8 speed instead of a 1.4. It is called the Twin Spike, or also called the Gouge of the Frigid Heart. That can be put in your offhand with instant poison as long as your main hand is a 1.4 speed with deadly poison. These comparisons are all offhand dagger comparisons with the main hand as a control. It should relatively test the dagger strength regardless of speed. Generally speaking, faster daggers are better. 1.8 speeds can be good, but they usually have to be a higher tier item to compete against a faster one. Because of that, the Dirk of the Night Watch, or also called the Orcish Deathblade, from Jaraxxus 10 Heroic is a really good option for really unlucky rogues, or for gearing up a new character. There are two other unlisted new options, both 1.8 speed. The Icefall or Nemesis Blade falls short of the previously mentioned Dirk of the Night Watch. The Tarnished Gutgore Ripper drops from Onyxia and is terrible. I would imagine it only possibly has PvP uses. That's it. If you have any questions, drop them below in the comments or come by on Twitch, link below in the description to catch me live. If you like the sort of content and want to help support this channel, be sure to like this video and subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you next time.